Football Podcast, episode 2, and we are 56 days away from the return of football, and things are starting to heat up. One quarterback has a new home, one is still looking for one, and another got caught dipping his hand in the cookie jar of his mum's best friend, and we've got it all covered tonight. I'll not keep my guests waiting any longer, as you're in for a treat tonight. As far as guests go, they're all first-round picks, but when it comes to fantasy football, they're complete amateurs. First up, my ever-present offensive coordinator, Shug. How's it going, mate?
Evening, Kieran. How the devil are you?
Never been better. How are you? I've already asked you that, mate. I'm a bit put off by my next line. You've got a reputation as a bit of a MILF hunter yourself, mate?
Let's not say that.
And let us know, Shug, who we joined by tonight?
We're joined by the cast of Stranger Things. First of all, it's Eddie. Eddie, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm very good, Shug. Very, very good. And I'm no Eddie, by the way.
Roberto, how the devil are you?
I'm good, mate. Looking forward to this. Last week obviously went really well. Good guests on. A lot of good content. So, really looking forward to this.
Good. And then we've got the king of the trades on. The Toastmaster General. How are you, Toasty?
I'm good, thank you. Nervous, first time on a podcast. Nervous all my trade deals will be exposed for the near criminal expenditures they were. But we'll get into that later, I guess.
We absolutely will. And this is kind of the beauty of doing this. Us four guys are in a fantasy league together. We've never actually met you yet, Toasty, so it's good to be joined by you virtually. But I suppose this is the beauty of fantasy football. We're all in a league, it kind of gets thrown together at the last minute. A couple of years ago, we're now moving into our third season, and it's probably one of the most fun, best things that we're doing. And I think that's why we're going to cover tonight, like what it is for beginners to join a fantasy football league. I mean, I know we all love the NFL, but when you join in a sort of fantasy football league in the red zone on the Sunday, we spoke about it last week, it ties in and it just makes it twice the fun. The best advice I could give to our listeners is that if you've got the chance to join a league, just do it. I think there's plenty of pages on things like Reddit you can join a league or you can just do it randomly. So it's good. It really is good. And Shug, what's your experience of doing this?
No, I think I was saying last week, I think it's been brilliant because it gets you more involved in it. I'll be honest, I was a kind of casual watcher. I kind of really got into NFL at playoff time. Same with all the American sports. I used to regular season. Don't get me wrong, I watched it, but I wasn't that into it. But now, because fantasy football, I would almost say it's more exciting in regular season for you because it's on the line for you personally. That you're watching all the games, you're checking all the scores, and it's a good laugh as well. A Sunday night comes round, you're head to head with somebody, and I love the way they do the points. It's not just a league table; it's head to head with somebody. You can give them a bit during the week and the lead up to it. It's been brilliant in our one. It's been, as I said, it's been a good laugh for the start and just got everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember approaching these and stuff, and I actually spoke to Bobby and I was saying to Bobby, look, you've been a Bears fan for a good while, you watched the NFL, I was like, would you fancy fantasy football? And you were just kind of like, I don't know how it works, I'm not quite sure. And you've really come in and enjoyed it, haven't you?
It's amazing. I mean, this is my third year it will be now. First year, I mean, as a beginner, you're kind of a wee bit lost into what you're doing, what you're trading, who your picks are, but it's super, super straightforward. And like Shug was saying, see on a Sunday night when it's red zone and it's live and you're head to head and you're up against someone, you see your points coming in, you see their points coming in. It's brilliant. I love the interactiveness of it. It's unbelievable, and I cannot wait for the season to start to see Toasty's trades.
That's it, and you've transitioned me absolutely beautiful. My inbox wouldn't be the same without this guy. And Toasty, it's a pleasure to have you in our league and involved in the fantasy football, and you absolutely love it. You've been a big NFL fan for a long time. You never really dabbled in the fantasy side of things. And you're very well known for your trades, but not also that, your spreadsheets. Can you talk us through that a wee bit?
So I work as a data analyst every day, so I thought if I'm good at that, I might as well try and make myself a wee bit better at fantasy football. So most people will probably be going home with their wife and kids, or just having fun on a sort of Monday, Tuesday evening. I go home and I get all the information from the games that have been going on at the weekend, and I fill in a spreadsheet with how many rushing yards a team has, how many rushing yards they had against them, and then I put it all into a big spreadsheet, which will then determine for the next week's rankings who the best matchups are. So, if the Washington Redskins, or Washington Commanders, apologies for that, if they're quite good against the run last season, I know if they're up against somebody who's not so good at the running game, there's no point putting a running back in from that team against them. Whereas other teams, terrible passing defenses, good rushing defenses, you want to try and go for the wide receivers playing against them. And it adds up across all the weeks, so you get a good picture of how it's actually been going. It doesn't work out. I've not won the league yet, so maybe it's not the best way to go, but I've won a few games in my time.
Out the four of us, there's actually only one person in here's won the league.
Nah, I was getting sick of the taste of champagne last year. That's how I let somebody else have it. But see, being honest, that's what makes it brilliant, because genuinely, if you don't have a clue, like myself, you came into the game like no really knowing exactly the projected points and all that, a reasonably decent guess. You can kind of, a total beginner could come from the outside and just go by the rankings and sort of work it out from there. And as joking aside, it is a bit of luck as well you get with fantasy football. Like, you get injuries, you get twists and turns in it. It's just, that's the beauty of it, to be fair.
Absolutely, and I think you're the perfect example here, Shug, where you were always very much keeping your eye on the NFL, never really fully endorsed into it until you took a step into fantasy football, won our first year, and we looked to Drew, who we'll get on the podcast at some point, winning it last year as well, whereas he wasn't much of a fan of the NFL, but he liked the sort of idea of the fantasy football. We got him involved, and I have no idea how he won, but he won't tell you it's auto-pick. Toasty will. But no, Drew done well last year with his draft. He drafted Eckler, he drafted Jonathan Taylor, he had Stafford at quarterback in Cup, and he did trade well. He'd done well to muscle his way through and work it out. But what advice, Roberto, would you give to anybody that wanted to get involved in fantasy football, but they weren't quite sure how to go about it?
So you did mention earlier on that there is a lot of good articles on Reddit, and see when you go into Google and you type in fantasy football week 1, week 2, week 3, see the amount of information and the advice that you'll get on it, what players to pick, when to pick them, what positions to pick is phenomenal. You don't need to really know anything about the game. You just need to be able to work the app and see who's projected to score well, who's projected to do terribly, and that's just the way you go with it. It's and like Shug was saying there, the beauty of it is that you don't need to be massive into American football, but what fantasy football does and Red Zone does in the weekend is it turns you into a fan. And it turned, like, for example, Drew, that was his first year last year, and you could just see over the weeks he started becoming more confident, understanding the game more, the players, and it creates a real fan feel with it. So my biggest advice, just get involved. Just get involved in the app, and your pals, they'll keep you right. Unless you're Toasty and he'll try and trade you some third string quarterback for one of your best players, but you need to look out for your pals.
Yeah, absolutely. And Toasty, you've been known to target an amateur or two or a newbie coming into the league and trying to convince them that someone's a lot better than what they actually are. But in terms of point scoring, could you explain it a wee bit for anyone that's not played before, Toasty? Like, what do we do? So our league is a full PPR league, which is points per reception. So you would get a point every time someone catches a ball. You can have half PPR, which would be half a point, and you have standard, which wouldn't count so much as a catch. So you can score points on things such as, like I say, receptions, running yards, rushing yards, your quarterback throwing touchdowns, kicks, your defence keeping the score down, things such as that. Toasty, what would you look out for? Like, I know you've touched on it there, but what's the type of things you're looking out for when you're going in to your weekend's tie?
Just how much really a team's going to have the ball. How many times is the ball going to get handed off to a running back? is a team going to need to be throwing the ball a lot? Will they be behind and be having to chase the game a wee bit? They're going to throw the ball a bit more there. I think understanding if your league is PPR or point per reception or not is important. A good example, Najee Harris. He had a game last year against the Bengals. He rushed for 40 yards. He had 102 receiving yards. In other leagues, that's 14 points. In our league, he had 14 receptions, and he's pretty much doubled his points. He wins a game for somebody in our league and loses it for somebody in a different one. For me, it's volume. Is how many times is that player going to get the ball in their hands and have a chance to do something?
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're looking at in a full PPR league would be that your gold, your big money, is your sort of pass catching running backs, the guys that are going to sort of do the best of both worlds, what we would call a hybrid. But not only is the games themselves fun, but I think the most fun thing, and we actually done it last night, was we drew our draft order. The draft, I remember the first time I ever done it, I was involved in another league. It was myself and Johnny that's in the league. And I remember they had planned the draft for a certain time, a bit like what we're doing just now. We all come online at the same time and we pick. So, for example, if Shug get first pick, Roberto get second, Toasty get third and myself fourth, we would work it down as a snake formation where the next round, the last person would be first pick and backwards and forwards. So it is a hell of a lot of fun. There's a lot of strategy in it. And Shug, what do you make of the draft themselves? I mean, we'd done the draw last night. We tried to make it a wee bit fun where I got the guys to send me their favourite song or a song of their choice, then filled it up in a Spotify playlist, shuffled the playlist, and we worked it from 12th pick to first. How are you feeling about it, Shug?
I came in at fourth, which is not too bad. Can I disagree with that? Whether or not that's what you stick to, I don't know. But fourth, can't complain with it. And I thought it was very clever for you. A new way of announcing the draft. One criticism I would say is my choice of song was Lady Gaga, Bad Romance, and that should have been given a lot more than 20 seconds, if I'm being honest. That song is a real toe tapper. So I would have kept that on for a bit longer. But as what it is. It was a lot less corrupt than your one last year, which was also enjoyable. But it's a good way of doing it. Good, wee different ways we can do every year, and everybody's quite exciting. It's just to start it.
Yeah, to be clear on what Shug's just said there, that last year was corrupt, it was absolutely not corrupt in any shape or form, and I can see you staring right at me. Basically what happened last year was I got my dog to pick tennis balls which were initialed with the guys' names on them. Picked the order, everyone was buzzing because we try and get it done a wee bit early so the guys can kind of work out like who they can pick where. But I changed the setting when it came to the app, and when we all got together to make the selections, the draft order had completely changed. So what everybody had prepared was up in the air, and no fault of my own. I'm never going to take the blame, am I?
What Kieran won't tell you as well is half the tennis balls were in the dog treats all day, so they were stinking it.
You're the type of guy that would say that the Scottish Cup draw was done by heated balls.
I'm saying nothing.
I know. So on the subject of balls, we'll move right on to the top of the story tree this week, the past week. And in the news, Zach Wilson, guys, what an absolute dog.
He's a rascal, that's for sure. And I like that.
Rascal. I know.
Handing him Stifler.
I know. So for anyone that's not, for anyone that's got a broadband like Martin's, it doesn't seem to work. Here's what actually happened.
The story involving Zach Wilson, his ex-girlfriend, his best friend / now ex-best friend, his mom, and his mom's best friend is about as juicy as it gets. We'll start at the beginning. Zach Wilson was in a relationship with this girl. I think her name's Abby. She was at the NFL draft when Zach Wilson was selected by the Jets. Anyways, they end up breaking up in January. Yesterday, Abby went Instagram official with her new boyfriend. Now, why is this a big deal? People break up and then date other people. Thanks to this tweet from U Stadium, the internet found out this photo was a little suspicious. This is not posted on Abby's Instagram. This is posted on the Instagram of her boyfriend, Dax Milne. Who is Dax Milne, you ask? Oh, just happens to be Zach Wilson's best friend. Here's an article from November 2020. BYU, Zach Wilson, and Dax Milne are best of friends off the field. They even went back to a BYU basketball game this year in February, around a month after Zach Wilson broke up with his girlfriend, which Dax Milne is now in a relationship with. Just a reminder to everybody out there, the snakes, they're in the grass. You don't see them, but they bite. Zach and Dax don't follow each other on Instagram anymore, and that's probably where you thought the story would end. But somebody went to Abby's Instagram and commented, "Homie Hopper," obviously in reference to the fact that she's now with her ex's best friend. Well, then she dropped a hell of an allegation in response. He was sleeping with his mom's best friend. That's the real Homie Hopper. Say what?
Where to start here, guys? Roberto, what does this do for Zach Wilson's fantasy football credibility?
I think it's only going to improve it. I know for a fact that everyone will be wanting to get Zach Wilson. And you know what? Something like this could just completely spur on a player. I think it's either going to make or break him. And I think the way that he's came across on social media and the way he's kind of dealing with all these allegations and claims that have came out against him, he seems super. He seems, like you said, he's like Stifler from American Pie. Seems super confident. Listen, I'm confident he's going to have a brilliant season this season off the back of this. I really am.
He's got all the tools round about him to do it, and I've got to watch my words carefully. They're tools, you know. He actually let the dust settle a wee bit and came out his Instagram, and there's a picture of him throwing in a sort of, and he said, "Took the boys away in Idaho before camp. Poor cell service. What did I miss?" And it's just like pictures of goats and all that underneath. And he's dealt with it well. So, nah, I'm not going to keep on it too much. But Toasty, are you drafting him?
Absolutely. His stock's gone up, in my opinion. He's good with the rookie receivers. He's good with the veteran receivers. He can find a wide open receiver anywhere he goes, and he knows how to get in the end zone. Sign him up.
I love that. I seen one tweet that actually says that this is the first time the Jets have scored over 40 since 2018.
And listen, he was good last season as well. Like second half of the season, he had a really strong season, so he has a lot of momentum going into this season from last. And okay, he's got a wee bit of drama going on in his life, but nah, I'm like Toasty. I'm confident he's gonna have a class season.
Yeah, and Shug, what we think now that you've been a man of the dressing rooms yourself, in and out the football teams. If this news has come out and you're in that dressing room, what is the first thing you're doing when he walks through?
Listen, you don't like a quiet dressing room, do you? I want characters like that strolling in. You can give them a bit, they give it out.
Love that.
Stories to talk about. Aye, he's in my team all day long.
Love that. Absolutely love that. I'm getting the Bluetooth speakers blaring out. Stacey's mum has got it coming. I'm not going to sing too much. We'll get too many unsubscribers. So we could spend all day cracking jokes about helmets, sacks, and the fact his college team are nicknamed the Cougars. But I've got to move on at some point. So there's been other news this week. It's landed at the door at the Panthers. Toasty, good to have you on. You are a Panthers man yourself. What brought you to becoming a Panthers fan before we get into things?
So I grew up watching the wrestling when I was younger, and my favourite tag team was the Hardy Boys. They come from Charlotte, North Carolina, so must have been about 10. Got my first Madden NFL game for the PlayStation, and there's tried to select a team, and I just saw Carolina Panthers, and I thought, oh, that's where they're from. Selected them, and I've never looked back.
It's got to be the most toasty answer I've ever heard, and I love it, mate. I was actually going to ask Martin that question last week, but I gathered that because he was a cowboy and worked for the government that I just skipped past it. So anyway, I digress. Baker Mayfield to the Panthers, Toasty. What are you thinking about that?
My initial reaction was a big no posted in our group chat. I talked myself off a ledge a wee bit. I don't think it's an inspired signing that's going to make us Super Bowl contenders or even division contenders, but for a 5th round pick, it's definitely an improvement on Sam Darnold. Looking at the last few seasons, Baker Mayfield has been playing a lot more games. I think he's only missed 5 games in 4 seasons. He might have played half of those with only one arm, but he at least still turns up. The Panthers are saying we're going to have a QB competition. I don't think we will. I think Baker Mayfield is starting day week 1. No, nothing else needed to say, really.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I don't think the Panthers dive in there and take Baker Mayfield if they're 100% happy with Sam Darnold. Now, I heard in a podcast this week that Sam Darnold's actually took it quite well. He's helping Baker Mayfield out to locate in the city, which is quite refreshing to hear. But you've now got 2 of the top 3 picks from the 2018 draft, and don't you dare come anywhere near Saquon Barkley. What does this mean in terms of, we look around what Baker Mayfield's got around him, what does this mean for Christian McCaffrey?
Christian McCaffrey, I think it does make his life a wee bit easier. He needs to focus on making sure he can actually still play and still go. I was going to say 17 games this season. We'll start with 4 and work our way up at the moment. But, we've got DJ Moore, we've got Robbie Anderson, we've got a couple of young wide receivers who can take some of the load. We've got Tommy Tremble, a big tight end. He can take some of that. Baker Mayfield, unfortunately, isn't much of a rusher. Sam Darnold did have 5 rushing touchdowns last season. That's maybe the only thing we're going to miss.
Yeah, so sticking with Christian McCaffrey and talking about his fantasy value. Now, in previous years, you're looking at Christian McCaffrey as the number 1 guy. If you've got first pick in your draft, you're taking Christian McCaffrey. He's a fantasy rock star. But across the past 2 seasons, he's completed 10 games. The 3 seasons before that, he completed a combined 48 games. Now, I know that it's not serious injuries. It's always been a lot of impact injuries and just muscle strains. I think he had a hamstring issue at one point last season. Are you drafting him if you've got the first pick, or are you the top 5 picks? And if you are drafting him, are you handcuffing Chuba Hubbard? And for anyone that's not a regular to fantasy football and you are listening because you are a beginner, handcuffing a player would more or less mean that if he went down and he got injured, Chuba Hubbard would then go into the slot as a number 1 running back. What are we thinking, Toasty?
I think if I have the first pick, I'm going Jonathan Taylor before Christian McCaffrey, probably putting Austin Eckler in there, and I think there's a good argument for Dalvin Cook. It's a big one to pass on if you're sitting in 4th position, something like that, and you can take Christian, you probably would. But I think there's a couple of better options that are a bit more reliable in recent years. In terms of Chuba Hubbard, I probably wouldn't take that. I don't think for certain he's going to be the handcuff. I think we also signed Donta Foreman from the Titans, who covered a wee bit for Derrick Henry last season. We're maybe looking at a bit more running back by committee this year. Or, if Christian McCaffrey does go down injured, there's nothing to say Hubbard will take all of that volume. I think it might be split.
Yeah, you make a great point there. And Shug, if you're the number 1 pick overall here in the draft, are you taking McCaffrey or are you looking elsewhere?
I'd probably look elsewhere, but if it comes to your pick and he's still available, he's one of the top ones. He's a bit of an Aaron Ramsey, isn't he? He's one of those ones that, big player, you would think of it, he's a boom or bust type of guy. You take a wee chance on him, and you know me, I like to roll the dice when it comes to fantasy football, so probably not be my first pick, but certainly up there. He'd be one of the ones I consider. But as Toasty said, you're probably taking a big chance, and you probably have got better options out there.
Yeah, it averages 26 points per game, which in fantasy football is winning you games every single week. Looking slightly away from Christian McCaffrey, and it's hard to ignore it. Roberto, what would you trade for his missus?
No comment.
Sorry to put you on the spot there, but keeping with the Panthers quickly, Toasty. If you're in your draft and you're deep into the rounds and you're looking to the Panthers for a player, who's fantasy relevant there?
DJ Moore and just about nobody else after Christian McCaffrey. Robbie Anderson had a great season 2 years ago. I forgot he was even playing for his last season. I don't think any of the other wide receivers get enough targets. Tommy Tremble, a tight end, perhaps he has a good year, but I'm not expecting it just yet. And Baker Mayfield, I think there's about 31 other quarterback options that are better out there. So, yeah, pass on every day apart from DJ Moore.
I like it. We're slowly but surely trying to get his draft strategy out here, boys. We're doing well, aren't we?
Don't trust a word that man says.
I know. So tell us something, Shug, right? We've touched on it already. Toasty's trades.
Oh, man.
You and that guy, you give me headaches as a commissioner at our fantasy league. These two basically swapped their full teams last year. Toasty went on to demolish just about every team, and when it came to the final hurdle, he tripped up. Such a shame. Shug, we get any examples?
I mean, it's literally some of the ridiculous trades come up. You see it on a Monday, and half frustrates you, but more makes me laugh when I see some of the trades coming up. I think you could go right through them. I think I've actually got one example somewhere here.
I'm looking forward to this.
Yep, there was one where you offered. Was this for your team, Kieran? I think it was Moore and Hurts for Evans, Thomas, Jackson, and Jacobs.
And it's not that. It tries to convince you, right? How good is that you've actually just said the only guy you would draft from the Panthers is DJ Moore, and the one that we've got here is you trying to give me DJ Moore and Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, okay, for Mike Evans, Michael Thomas, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Jacobs, and you've wrote to me, you take my only quarterback for yours who's on a bye week, and a top wide receiver for an injured running back on a bye week, and a wide receiver, and a man I don't even believe exists anymore.
I mean, absolutely spot on. DJ Moore is a top wide receiver. I was trying to spice things up with the league a little bit more, give you more of a chance, Kieran. I'll take some people who are on bye weeks who are a wee bit injured, maybe get a wee bit improved across the board, but trading you some really big stars.
But see, the thing is, right, so for anyone that hasn't played fantasy football, you get projected points every week, and the average projected points for teams are like 120, 130. That's what yours going to be. With Toasty's trades and the team that he'd managed to build in the latter end of the season, his average was about 170, 180 projected points. So they obviously work for you, but that's crazy.
Poor Jordan, they managed to... when I said earlier that you go after the newbies, right? Jordan, first season rookie last year, you went after him and you've said, right, if I beat you, I think we were about week 15 by this point and you were cruising. You said, if I beat you, you need to give me, I think it was Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
It happened, and the two of you, it was like putting your hand on the Bible in a courtroom. You swore by that it was a legit trade. And everybody was messaging me saying they two are absolutely at it. You came clean, and that's why you're still in the league. And I'm proud you're part of it. So you're on probation for a year.
Now, listen, see, my problem is last year I knew I wasn't going to win. And then what happens is I get bored. I've been messaging Toasty constantly. I've got all these ridiculous trades, and I end up saying, do you know what? I'll do a deal with him just because I want to see the uproar in the chat, just because I want to spice things up and hopefully get the ball rolling. I just like putting that in and seeing these reactions sometimes, but it's the fun of the fair, isn't it?
Yeah, you're the fuel to the fire in this NFL Fantasy League. Anyway, we'll move on. And Roberto, good to have you on. Big Bears fan. It's been a busy week for the Bears. Like I asked Toasty, what brought you to supporting the Bears?
So when I was 11, my dad gave me my first computer, and he set up my computer and he made the wallpaper the Chicago Bears logo, and that was it. That was literally it. I got mad, and after that I learnt the rules of the game, and I've supported the Bears ever since. And I always think about this, like, obviously we're in the UK, so we're not in America. It's not a local team. Like, how do we pick teams to support in America? Is it just complete random like me and Toasty, or is there anything behind it?
I love all these stories that's about, it's the random reasons how we support teams and all that. I remember I got a fake Holland top when I was younger from the in shops, which is a bit of a black market from back in the day. In Scotland, we're playing Holland in the Euros, or the Netherlands, should I say. I remember every day at school, like, man, I can't wait to watch Scotland. And I was like, I'm supporting the Netherlands. I've got the top. And that's just how it went. But
yeah,
news for the Bears this week. You've brought in Keel Harry from the Patriots for a 7th round pick. What do you make of that?
I mean, I think it's only going to improve the Bears offensively. Last year, they really, really struggled to score points. I don't know if that was because they'd lost the relationship with Matt Nagy. I don't know what it was, but they just really struggled. New quarterback. I think it's a great move. Obviously, Harry last year was very underwhelming. Didn't play much for the Patriots. The year before that, I know he had a pretty strong year. So, listen, I'm looking forward to it. Anything that's going to improve the Bears offensively, I think is only going to be a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in terms of his numbers at the Patriots, for me personally, I wouldn't take his numbers as granted at the Patriots. I had Jacoby Myers last year, and I tried to get rid of him as quick as I could. They spread the ball around the field using as many receivers, as many tight ends, as many running backs as they can. It's a Bill Belichick offense, and he's always keeping the other team guessing. So I think he might flourish. I like the idea of him at the Bears in his own sort of offense, where the only guy probably ahead of him is Darnell Mooney, who could potentially be a superstar this year. You touched on Matt Nagy as well. I feel like they had basically gave up on the guy come January, and they brought in Matt Eberflus. How do you think he's going to do this year?
I think he's going to do well. He's came across really well in his interviews. Obviously, came from a defensive background. Bears notoriously strong defensive team, so I think they're only going to be able to improve on that. I think anything's going to be an improvement on Nagy, to be honest with you. The first year that obviously Nagy joined, I think the Bears get to the playoffs, so the wild cards. I don't know if that was a honeymoon period, and then it ended pretty quickly, but listen, change is good in my eyes, and they need something to change because they have been massively underperforming for a very long time now.
Yeah, pretty much is a transitional season for the Bears in a way, with no Matt Nagy, no Mitch Trubisky at QB1, but you had a guy coming into second season, and if you guys like me listen to a lot of fantasy football podcasts, the experts lavish praise on Justin Fields to no end, saying that this guy is going to be a fantasy superstar. I know in previous seasons quarterbacks weren't so relevant, but I think this season more than any, where there's a lot of poorer quarterbacks, and it's been a poor quarterback draft this year, that we're going to have to be looking a wee bit earlier in the rounds at quarterbacks probably. Would you be taking Justin Fields a bit earlier, given that he is a guy that tends to use his legs a lot and he's got a cannon of a throw on him?
He's definitely got potential, Justin Fields. You could see that. There was glimmers of him last year, and like you said, he can move. And I think the way that the game is these days, you need a quarterback that can move. I do like him. He's young. Obviously, last year was his rookie year. He's got a lot to learn, but I think if they stick with him, I know the Bears have had a lot of quarterbacks over the last few years. If they stick with him, put a bit of belief in him, I really think that he'll do well. I really do. It's exciting for the Bears this season because their offense does look a lot stronger. Previously, it's always defense has been their main game, but this year it is a lot more exciting. We'll see what happens. I would definitely take him. I probably wouldn't take him first pick, second or third. I would, if he was still available, I would definitely snap him up.
Yeah, and Toasty, touching back on N'Keal Harry there, does this take a bit of heat off of Darnell Mooney and could, well, the word I'm trying to look for here is to try and make him a huge fantasy player, because last year he had an excellent season. He was a very good fantasy pick for one of the later rounds. Does this push him up the rounds a wee bit?
I think they can definitely complement each other. I think a big thing is that Mooney won't be targeted by absolutely everybody on the opposition defence because he'd be the only person on the Bears team. I think it means that they need to split their attention a little bit. I think it's good for Justin Fields as well, and I think overall it'll help the three of them all just score more points. I don't think the Bears are going to do good in the real NFL, but I think those three have potential to get us points in fantasy.
Yeah, that's all that really matters, if we're being honest here. So when we talk about guys coming to other teams, in fantasy we're always looking at what it can mean for other people. Does it make their fantasy go up with a high upside, or does it bring their fantasy value down? So I'm going to come to you here first, Shug, and we're going to talk about AJ Brown at the Eagles. Is his stock up or is his stock down, given that this was a huge trade during the draft this year?
Slightly down for me. I've got him. Don't know if you agree with that, but he's one of the ones I've got is slightly down. Not much a change, but I think he'll be slightly worse off. His stock's slightly lower.
I've got to agree with you there. He's playing with Jalen Hurts, and that's no slight on Jalen Hurts, who I think is an excellent quarterback. I think he's going to be a fantasy superstar as well, given that he uses his legs much and he likes a deep ball as well. What we saying to it, Roberto? Stock up or stock down?
Yeah, I think exactly like you said. Jalen Hurts loves to run it. I think he would. Yeah, I would put him as stock down. AJ Brown this year.
Yeah. We're looking at a man now that I had last year, named my team after him. Marquise Brown's Boys was my team name. Did you like it?
Yeah.
Nah. Right, okay. Toasty, Marquise Brown was traded to the Cardinals. A bit of a surprise given that he seemed to be Lamar Jackson's boy last year. Stock up or stock down in fantasy value?
For me, I think stock down. So, first 8 games of the season, probably stock up. Rest of the season, stock down. Arizona, they don't have Chase Edmonds there anymore. DeAndre Hopkins is probably looking at a little bit of a suspension. The first 8 games should be all about Marquise Brown. The only problem is the first 3 games are against the Chiefs, the Rams, and the Raiders, who were all great teams last year. There's potential for him, but it's going to be a tough start.
So what you're saying to me there is week 9, if you've got Marquise Brown, I better be checking my inbox because you're going to be trading him to me.
Week 7, I'll be starting to trade him, so you get at least one good game out of him.
I know your game. And you said there about Chase Edmonds leaving the Cardinals. Also, Christian Kirk followed him out the door, so I do expect that he'll take, with Hopkins out, Kirk out, he's going to take a lot of throws. So yeah, we're looking at the sort of first 8 weeks. He's a deep threat. He's good in the slot as well. For me, it's stock up. I think he'll do well. I really do. He done well for me last year. And a name I touched on there, Christian Kirk. Shug, what we thinking? He's been traded to the Jags. Stock up or stock down in Christian Kirk?
I think very strong wide receiver. I'm going to go up again on that one.
Yeah. Roberto, would you agree with that?
No, I'll say stock down. I do like Kirk. I did like him. But Trevor Lawrence isn't as good a quarterback as Kyler Murray. So for me, I don't think he'll get the ball as much. So I'm going to say stock down.
100% agree with you. I've seen him in a lot of trade offers last year. Due to his production almost, he had 5 touchdowns from 103 targets, which really isn't that much. It's not really solid numbers, but looking forward here, the other movers and shakers, Amari Cooper going to the Browns. I think this is an easy one. Roberto, stock up or stock down?
Down. Definitely down.
It's an easy down when you look at the way the Browns have went about things this year. Deshaun Watson comes in. I think it'd be a good bet to put your money on whether he'll actually play this year at all. A rumour going about this week that he might only be banned for 6 or 7 games, which I'm not sure will happen. Given the history of the NFL, that in terms of suspensions, they don't take things like this lightly, so I would be absolutely shocked if that was the case. But I'm thinking stock down with Amari Cooper, absolutely. He is getting older as well. Mm-hmm. Toasty, Devontae Adams, this is the blockbuster trade of the summer. He's at the Las Vegas Raiders, a team I've got a soft spot for myself. What are we thinking? Stock up or stock down?
I think with Devontae Adams, it's very difficult to say his stock's going to go up because it's already so very high up there. He was the top wide receiver going this time last year and the year before going into the drafts. He's someone that I absolutely love on my fantasy team. And often when Shug has him, I'll try and offer him superstars like Rex Burkhead to get him. Yeah. But to no avail. You've swapped Aaron Rodgers for Derek Carr, which is maybe downgrading a bit. But he's also swapping Green Bay for Las Vegas, a bit sunnier climate. He's got better components around him. He's got one of my personal favourites, Hunter Renfrow. He's got Darren Waller in there in the team. He's not a one-man band anymore. I think he will have a good season. I'm not going to say his stock's going up because I think it will be difficult. But I've got picks 11 and 14 in our league. If he's there, it's going to take a lot for me not to take him.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. When you touched there as well that he just left Green Bay, you look at who that opens the door for next, and I'm going to say Alan Lazard here, and I'm going to kick this one off by saying stock up big time. This guy is going to have a monster season. I know last week I touched on Gabriel Davis. He falls into the same bracket. Literally nobody else for Aaron Rodgers to throw to, which is a bit of a shame, and I think it's Green Bay haven't covered themselves in glory. They've got to be providing targets round about Rodgers. When you look at Alan Lazard last year, he had an okay season. But at the moment, when I'm looking here, his ADP, which for anyone that's not sure what that is over the fantasy draft apps, it's his average draft position. So it's where he's been taken overall on an average across everyone that's took him. His average draft position is 122, so early in the 12th round. If I'm looking at a guy playing wide receiver to Aaron Rodgers, who literally has nobody else to throw to, his fantasy value soars for me, and there's unbelievable upside. You agreeing with me there, Shug?
I've got the same kind of notes here. I'm saying stock up. I think Rodgers trusts him as well, is a big thing. And somebody's got to replace sort of Davante Adams' numbers in the red zone, so I've put him in as stock up.
Do you think Rodgers' age will come into a factor with that?
I'm not so sure. It's a good question because we look at guys like Tom Brady, and often we put Brady and Rodgers together in a lot of conversations because of their age, how they play. They don't tend to move around the pocket too much. It's just they're cannon of an arm that gets them out of danger a lot. Rodgers has got to be one of the most entertaining quarterbacks to watch, and he has been over the last 15 years. But possibly. It all depends if Rodgers is playing, because I don't think Love in behind Rodgers, if he was to get injured, can produce the same sort of numbers. But if Alan Lazard's there late on, I'm talking rounds 8, 9, possibly 10, I would reach for him. Falling into the same sort of category here, Michael Pittman at the Colts, Shug. He's got a new quarterback. Instead of Carson Wentz, it's Matt Ryan, who posts unbelievable numbers every year. Stock up or stock down on Michael Pittman?
Again, similar. Stock up. Kind of looking at Ryan's sort of history of sort of helping the fuel with kind of top wide receivers. Example here is the Ridley. So I think his numbers will be good. So I certainly think his stock's up.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I'm going to make a bold prediction here. Right? If Pittman stays fit, he's going to finish as a top 5 fantasy wide receiver this season. At the moment, his ADP is 4.7, which means he's been taken late in the 4th round. So I think there's a lot of folk agree with me here, seeing that Matt Ryan is his quarterback. So if he's there, you're taking him. So, same sort of situation. Your quarterback in the house at the Broncos. Toasty, what does this mean for Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick? Are we looking stock up or stock down? And which ones do you think we look to as, if they're all there, who would you be taking first there?
Stock up, definitely. I think you also need to throw KJ Hamler into that mix. He'd had some good plays last season, and he can be the deep threat, and Russell Wilson loves a deep threat. It was the reason Tyler Lockett was fantasy relevant over the last few seasons. I think with the changes to the Broncos, they've got a new head coach who doesn't like running 3 wide receiver sets. I think Courtland Sutton's definitely going to be up there. Tim Patrick's going to be up there. Jerry Jeudy not so much, but this Broncos wide receiver team, they love an injury or two. I think they'll all get their chance at some point.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. And Russell Wilson, very much like Zach Wilson, likes to go deep. So a guy that doesn't tend to go deep, Carson Wentz at quarterback. He's now at the Commanders. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry. He's always been one of my favourite picks in fantasy. Roberto, stock up or stock down on Scary Terry?
I think, unfortunately for Terry McLaurin, is that Wentz is now at quarterback. So for me, it's definitely stock down. I don't think Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. I think he had a spell where he was okay, but it's a shame for some of the Commanders players that need to get the ball. So for me, it would be stock down.
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think his production's going to suffer. I think Wentz, I remember years ago, I struggled for a quarterback in fantasy and I picked him up and he'd done really well for me until that injury where the Eagles went on to the Super Bowl. I just don't think he's been the same since. Earned himself a good contract at the Colts last year. I was very surprised when he got his move to the Commanders, but I'm just not sure it's going to work out. I'm not convinced. One guy I think will work out for me, Juju Smith-Schuster. moving to the Kansas City Chiefs, working under Patrick Mahomes. Fell away a wee bit last year at the Steelers. Don't know if that's got a lot to do with his TikTok and his attitude and dancing on badges and crests. But for me, under Mahomes, if he can get his head together, it could be a very, very decent pick. His ADP at the moment is 79. So if you're grabbing him late in the 7th round, I think it's going to be good. Would you agree with that, Shug?
I agree. I'd put him down as worth a punt. Big season ahead from him, as you said, Mahomes. Not much you can add onto that, but he's obviously not going to be really early in your picks, but he's one of those guys that could come in and give you decent numbers throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to actually throw in a decent wee fact here. Juju Smith-Schuster and Lamar Jackson came from the same football league, which is run by Snoop Dogg.
Class.
So there you go.
In fact, every day's a school day.
Every day's a school day. I'm not going to provide one of these every week. But anyway, boys, I think we've pretty covered everything in terms of moving and shaking around the league, the trades and stuff. But thank you very much to our guests. Roberto, it's been a pleasure this week. You enjoyed yourself?
Yeah, been brilliant. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Toasty, you're not getting away just yet. Shug over here, he's got a few questions for you. What are we thinking, Shug?
Well, listen, we can add Roberto in it, and Kieran, if you're wanting to chime in on any of them, it's nothing too trivial, nothing like that. It's just a couple of questions getting to know you guys. So anyone who's want to chime in,
I love it.
Right, so just completely random. So what we'll start off. First question is the Super Bowl. Now, Kieran's had a lot of heat for this in the past, and he's produced in more recent times. What's your Super Bowl snack of choice?
Nachos. I think nachos with a couple of nice dips.
I like hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
Definite hot dogs for me.
Ah, man. I'm not going to take heat for this. Wings, buffalo sauce, everything.
100%.
Right on the money.
100%. Right, next question is geared to Toasty, but you can obviously change it for your team. But Toasty, if you had to sign one NFL player to play for Partick Thistle, who would it be?
Absolutely any of them at this point, I think. I'd even take Carson Wentz.
Oh, man, I'd love to see Aaron Donald in goals at Fir Park. I'm getting mixed up.
I would definitely take big Travis Kelce, put him up there, big number 9, big target man.
He is your guy, isn't he? I heard his name mentioned last night, actually, after we'd done the draft order, but we'll leave that conversation for another day.
It's Toasty, the amount of trades that Toasty sends me to get Kelce every year.
Been thrown under the bus here, Kieran, thank you.
I'll be honest here, you weren't the only one.
Okay.
Oh, I'm stirring the pot.
Yeah.
Kieran, same question to you.
Right, if I have to take any player
For the NFL to play for Rangers, who would it be?
It's a good question. I'm going to go with Morelos up front with Jalen Ramsey in the 10. If you like entertainment, that would be blockbuster. And I'll tell you what, I'd back my team to win any fight.
So Aaron Ramsey didn't work out, so you'll try Jalen Ramsey this time?
Yes, mate, yes. They're cousins, you know that? That's not a fact, by the way.
Fun fact of the week.
We get anything else for the Shug?
Next question. If you could draft one Simpsons character, who would it be?
I mean, that's ridiculous. I think we're all pretty much in agreement. There's many better animated shows out there. Family Guy, South Park, Rick and Morty. The list goes on, really. So if I could draft any Simpsons character, it'd be absolutely none of them.
Who are that, Roberto?
I would take... What's the mayor called? Adam West?
Quimby?
Is it Quimby? I'd take the mayor.
West.
Is it not Adam West? It's the mayor.
Was Adam West no Batman?
Adam West, I think, plays his voice. Listen, I could be way off. I'd take the mayor, though.
Right, Mayor Quimby. Kieran?
I'm just going to keep it as vanilla as I can. Homer Simpson. We need a strong dressing room. Need a bit of banter in there. He's your guy, isn't he?
Right. If you started an NFL team in your hometown, what would you call them?
Easy. Condorit 69ers.
That's a tough one. That's a very tough one. Can I
Are you
sleep on
saying
it?
it's a tough one because you're not sure what you would class as your hometown?
I'm trying to figure it out. I can't think.
Kieran, I was going to go with the Croy Coal Miners for you.
This will be your last week on this pod. Enjoy it while you're here. Toasty, I don't know, what is your hometown, Toasty?
I mean, Glasgow. It would have to be Glasgow, but I'm just trying to think anything good that goes with Glasgow. My mind's went blank in this question, honestly. You've stumped me, Shug, for once.
The Tradeston Traders, that would be yours.
Tradeston would definitely be where we play the games.
Right, and the last thing I'm going to ask is your favourite thing about NFL fantasy. One thing you can pick.
I'm going to be cheesy here. Friendship.
Beautiful words.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on the same lines as Toasty. I quite like the idea of throwing the league together, and at the last minute deciding to do it's probably been the funnest thing which I've done in a long time. It's just an absolute carry on, to be honest. There's a lot of guys that don't really know each other. I know a lot of the guys haven't met, like Derek in a league, and I'm a big Step Brothers fan. I remember last year that Shug beat Derek, and to quote a phrase from Step Brothers was "fuck you, Derek, fuck you," and I'm not sure Derek took it right, knowing that that's what Shug meant, and he didn't reply to him, and I could not stop laughing. So stuff like that, and yeah, I love it.
I'm the same route as the lads. See a Sunday, a Red Zone Sunday, and everyone's in the chat and everyone's just going at it. That's the one for me.
I think for me it's the aggro. I mean, I remember I played Roberto last year and I was sending him voice notes like death threats.
I won't repeat them on the podcast, but I was fearing for my life.
Aside from that, I'd say something different. I'd say for me the draft actually is probably the most exciting. Like, I think the draft's really exciting. You see your team out there and then you kind of go for there. It's a chat that it creates. So that's probably, aside for the back and forth, I would say that's probably my favourite side, yeah.
And then 3 seconds after the draft ended, your notifications are going crazy. Toasty.
Aye.
Man, Toasty has offered you Rex Burkhead for Alvin Kamara with like 3 paragraphs as explanation about how Rex Burkhead could have a better season with Alvin Kamara, and he's the guy that's taking the risk.
Love it.
I mean, that does sound a risk.
We'll go for one more question. Who'll finish first and who'll finish last in the fantasy? And you can't say yourself.
Ooh. Or anyone in this podcast?
Anyone in the full league?
Okay.
I'm going to go with Toasty for first. I think it's his year. I think third time lucky. He's Mr. Spreadsheets. Just nobody trade with him, man. Give us a chance. For last, I'm going to go myself, actually. I'm spending too much time trying to plan this podcast that I'll completely oversee anything that I've planned or talked about on this. I'll draft poorly. I'm sitting 9th in the order for the draft. Let's see how it goes. But I'm predicting myself for last.
I'm going to go, I think Drew's going to win it again. I think he's going to be the first back-to-back champion. I'm last. I'm going to go with you, Shug, but I've got reason behind it. Every year you're getting bolder and bolder with your trades and the way that you're getting rid of your team at certain weeks. So I think you're going to go even bolder this year and do a big trade that's just going to mess you up. So I'll put you last.
Listen, I can understand that. I'm a bit of a bust guy.
I think for me, if I can't choose myself first, I'd choose Martin. He keeps going on about he knows a lot about football, so maybe it's time he actually shows us it. Last place, I mean, Johnny's definitely got to be a possibility considering he gives up about week 4. But also I think Drew is a big chance for me. You talked about his good draft last year, Kieran, but you didn't point out he drafted Travis Etienne about 3 weeks after he was ruled out for a season. So we'll see how it goes.
Oh man, your personal battle in this league with Drew is highly entertaining.
Yeah, and it was it the
I only lost
semi-final?
3 games last season over the whole time, and all 3 were to Drew. So I want revenge.
My favourite victory last year was actually over Drew because, like I touched on earlier, he had Jonathan Taylor and he had Austin Eckler, and it was the week that one of them scored 4 touchdowns and one of them scored 5 touchdowns, and I still managed to scrape the win. He was sick. We actually watched it in the house together, so yeah, he done well to win it. But Shug, who are you thinking, first and last?
I'm going to go with, at first I thought Martin, but there is a chance he could be doing well and then could get a concussion for playing TIG and make a few risky choices. So I'm going to actually go with Toasty. I think he's been on the edge of it. I think he might win it this year. Pains me to say that, but I think he might. Last place, I think Steve-O could finish last again. I think the King of Blackpool could be going home.
Yeah, and to touch on anyone that doesn't know what Shug means about the King of Blackpool, we've always got a forfeit for anyone that finishes last. Steve-O has still not fulfilled his trip to Blackpool as last place. He'll try and say that he did, but it was a holiday, so...
Nah, if he finishes last again, it's 2 weeks in Blackpool.
Not just a day trip.
No offence to anyone from Blackpool, but that sounds like hell. Nah, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure this week. It's been a great laugh. This is the kind of thing we put the podcast together for. And as me and Shug have said previously, it's if we get 10 people listening, it's fun. If we get 10,000 people listening, it's still fun, and we'll keep doing it the same way that we do it. So for us, if you have listened, if you have enjoyed it, subscribe to us, follow us, listen to us every week. We want you back, and try and get involved. Send us a message. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're after. But nah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hope to get you back on again, guys. But thanks for being great guests, and I hope you have a nice week ahead. Adios.
Thank you.